So welcome to this roundtable. It's faculty professional development, and I think we have 60 minutes time. Some of the guidelines says that we only have 45 minutes, but at least in the program we have 60 minutes. So I'm assuming that's the time. My name is Juha Kontio. I come from Turku, Finland. I'm the Dean at the Faculty of Engineering and Business and been involved with CDIO for many years, I think since 2007. And this roundtable is continuing work from something that we started earlier. And I have the idea that I give you a short introduction to this and give some background, explain some of the work that we have done earlier, and then the most of the time we will use on discussing whether the ideas that we have identified earlier are such that these should be taken further into the CDIO Council, or are there other topics that we can identify that we can promote within the CDIO community. And then we kind of wrap up the whole thing. Now that we have this amount of people, it seems that we don't need to use any breakout rooms. Rather, we can use one and only room to discuss here. So if we move like this, I will show you some slides. Is it possible that at some point I can share the slides through the chat, or it is? Because then it would be easier for you to follow, but I can do that before we go into the actual discussion. So if we move on like this kind of agenda, so I think this is the aim that we all have. How to educate better engineers and how to make that. And then I guess you all recognize these three questions that we have had present there for a long time. So why we are doing this, what kind of knowledge, skills and attitudes should the engineer have, and then how we can do it better. And of course, if we think about those three questions, who is doing that? Who has the key role on doing everything? It's the faculty, it's the professors, lecturers, personal teachers, whatever you would like to call them. And thinking about those actors, they have to have good or excellent in many of different things. Whether it's something to deal with the teaching methods, learning methods, whether it's something to do with the assessment. They have to know what's happening in the industry. They have to know the real engineering activities, and in addition, they need to master and constantly follow what's happening in engineering area. They need to have the knowledge. They need to have the skills, and at the same time, they need to have the pedagogical skills, and that takes us to the CDIO standards 9 and 10. And number 9 is about the enhancement of faculty competence, and that's mostly focusing on the professional skills of engineering faculty. And then number 10 is mostly focusing on the teaching competencies. And if we take a closer look on these standards, we can see that both standards have a lot of connections to other standards, meaning that if you don't have good skills on this, it might be difficult or problematic to work among the other standards that we have here. So for example, with this standard 9, we have at least standards 3, 4, 5, and 7 mentioned here, where we should have these skills to really make it work in the right way that we are hoping. And same is with standard 10, the faculty teaching competence. This is also very strongly connected with the other standards. Here we have mentioned standards 7, 8, and 11, And so if we take the full picture and think about the importance of faculty professional development, we can see that we have altogether 12 standards plus nowadays also the 4 optional standards there. So how many standards we have on this slide? And many of them starts from the faculty. So the faculty has the key role on doing all these activities. So if the faculty is not competent and is not able to provide all these kind of things, it's not so good to talk about all the other things, because if faculty has the key role to implement, for example, active learning and or do all these kind of integrated learning experiences, or guideline and tutor the design implement activities that we have in our curriculum. So that all emphasizes the role of the faculty. And this is something that we have discussed earlier. So in 2019, we had a two-day workshop in fall meeting in Singapore. And the idea was to have a follow-up meeting later, and actually that was scheduled in the fall meeting 2020, but due to COVID-19, most of the talks and discussions were focusing on that COVID-19 and not so much on the faculty development. Some ideas were present as well there, but mostly this roundtable is now the actual next step after the Singapore meeting, and hopefully some of the ideas that we will discuss today are such that we can continue and express in our council, maybe during this conference or at the end of this conference. So if we take a look on the 2019 fall meeting, we had basically 3 different questions. First, we wanted to identify existing practices that how we can, what different universities have for faculty development. And then we continued from there that what are the current challenges on this faculty professional development. And finally, we developed some activities or proposals for CDIO community. And I have summary of all these 3 in the next slides. So thinking about the existing practices, these came from the participants in the Singapore meeting, and we can see that there are many different activities and procedures available in different universities. So it seems that universities really have recognized that this is something that you should focus on. But what different universities are doing, that's totally different, and how you have added those procedures in your daily activities. But anyway, it seems that one of the challenge that we go to the challenges next is that in many universities, teaching is not the main role. Rather, quite many activities are connected with the research thing, and that is at least one challenge, that how you make teaching and learning as attractive as the research activities. And this is something that we discussed a lot. And if we think about, if we think back, the CDIO standards where the teaching and learning competencies has a key role. So that's certainly something that universities need to think about. And of course, this is also something that we as a CDIO community should think about, that how we express the interest and importance of teaching and learning together with the research activities, or is there something that we can combine them, and how to do that. In addition, one of the challenges that was identified was that even though that you have faculty members coming from the industry once they have been in the university for some years, the industry experience is getting old, and how you maintain the good experience from the industry perspective. And finally, we came for some ideas, and I'll show them all so it's easier for you to follow. For the standard 9, there was at least these three proposals that we should have industry speakers in our meetings. Maybe we could apply some funding to support our faculty to work in the industry, whether it is European Union funding or some other funding or whatever local funding there might be. And also, if it's possible, to arrange some factory visits. Of course, with that kind of online conference, it's a bit challenging, but once we get to the, let's say, normal meetings again, that might be something that we should think about. And then about this teaching competencies, there was a lot of talk about the active learning and active learning experiences, that how we can share them, because there are, we are quite sure that there are a lot of good examples that people have done active learning, but we haven't really have a good chance to share the experiences, even though that there are conferences and there are papers that present what different universities have done. Maybe have a roundtable workshop on industry periods attachment. And one of the quite easy things to do is that if we organize different kind of seminars, workshops on pedagogical issues, why not inform the whole CDIO community so that people can attend, even though that the workshop might be in a different university, etc. And how we could organize some kind of short mobility visits to other collaborators, and maybe in that sense get a feeling of co-teaching and learn what other universities are doing. And then there are a lot of other topics that we wrote here. Now that I looked this slide again after 2 years, I can see that some of the things that we have here are such that they are very easily to do. Some of the things that I would reconsider whether that's still feasible and necessary to do, but there are this is maybe the key slides for the roundtable discussion later, that are there some of the elements that we would like to progress, or is there something that is missing totally, etc. And in the workshop that we had 2024 meeting, we had the title that lessons learned from COVID-19 and faculty development, but basically the discussion focused only on the COVID-19, and the faculty development was mainly touched on those occasions when we were thinking that how you have supported your faculty to cope in the online environment, and what kind of support you have organized and that kind of things. So not so much on that kind of faculty professional development activities like we discussed in 2019. Okay, so this is basically the work that has been done earlier, and now I would like to move on the actual discussion. I was thinking that we have breakout rooms here, but since we are all here, I guess it's better to discuss in one room, even though I have opened this wall, fling of wall, where we can enter our ideas. It's visible for all of you, and if you now open the flinger, please do not add the www there in front of flinger.fi, because it will not work. But once you get to the site, then you can write or give the access code, and then you have the wall where we have these three questions basically, or these topics that we should talk about. And while you are now going to the Flinger, maybe I tried to share the PDF file of the whole presentation through the chat. So just wait for a while. Okay, I'll do it again because I only sent to the host. Okay. Did you get the file? Because now you have the file and the topics that we have discussed earlier, and I think that maybe I take the Flinger wall here on the screen. So do you see the Flinger wall now on your screen? Yes. And now what we can do, you can select. Well, I'm the administrator, so I can select different, but you should have a square, and then you have different colors here. But maybe before we start entering anything here, any comments at that point from the short presentation or the short background that I gave? And then please do just open your mic and give some comments or some ideas. Anybody? Does the challenges or the procedures or the ideas sound? How does they sound? Anna, you have your mic open, so you can start.
Yeah, sounds great. Great. You are the Flinger champion. That's good.
How about the existing practices that you have in different universities? I remember I might have had somebody, or I remember that I had some Swedish partners in Singapore meeting, and then some of the ideas that we had on there came from the Swedish universities. I think they had, for example, some mandatory practices on pedagogical training and things like that. Sound familiar?
Oh yeah. So I take it that you would like me to say something. Well,
go ahead.
What we are doing currently at the School of Engineering at Jönköping University is that we are working very intensely, you could say, with collaboration among teachers. So you could say that we are now trying to apply some of those models that we use in our education towards the students. We kind of apply those to ourselves. So we have collaboration is quite often regarded as a useful and efficient tool for learning. So we try and actually do that among ourselves. So collaboration, collegial learning, that's how we are working at the moment at the School of Engineering in Sweden. So and this is of course in addition to courses that provide credits for the teachers, but to try and implement a way of working which is working together with your colleagues. You might call it a community of practice as well, to try and work together with the teachers and to get that as a kind of normal way of doing things. And then we have a small group who gathers. We're a pedagogical development group. We then try and be keeping abreast with the developments and being knowledgeable about important stuff, but that we try and engage many teachers in conversations, in collaboration, you could say.
So you could say that you are emphasizing teacher collaboration from individual activities to group activities, that you have a lot of discussion among your faculty members and you share best practices, etc. And in addition, you have started this kind of special pedagogical group that is helping and maintaining the discussion. Is that correct?
The pedagogical development group exists since quite a few years now, but our way of working has become increasingly collaboration and collegial learning. So first, we now have a step whereby we engage in and kind of acquire a certain amount of knowledge, you could say, content, and make that into our content through collegial learning. We discuss together, we brainstorm together, we make visualizations of our knowledge together, and then as a continuation of that, the idea is that we continue this way of working with our colleagues.
Good. How about others? What kind of comments or ideas you had from this? The thing that I presented or what Anna explained here?
I think.
Oh, go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, I think from my experience, these standards have often been the trickiest ones to address in a proper sort of systematic way. We're typically most of the people that are coming along to CDIO conferences and are interested in these things are obviously got a strong pedagogical drive, and the way our day jobs are very often on the front line, sort of teaching the students directly. So we've got flexibility to change about our teaching strategies personally and how we structure our courses and our modules to deliver the CDIO standards. But because the staff development aspects are often working at a different level or working at the another managerial level, that can be tricky to implement them. And obviously we've got these tensions between the whole teaching and research side. I know at our place we've got some processes in place. So certainly within the UK sector, most staff these days are expected to do generic teaching qualifications as part of their development when they first come into academia. So they would normally do a part-time diploma over a couple of years, but this is sort of quite generic teaching and learning rather than anything specific to engineering or STEM type subjects. And then it becomes a little bit more fractured. We do things like shadowing, so sort of inexperienced practitioners in CDIO or whatever discipline will potentially shadow or be mentored by more experienced colleagues. But again, it's not necessarily structured. If you're wanting to support someone and develop a 3-year plan or something like that, is much more tricky to do. In a 3-year plan that will have meaning for the students that they teach, but also potential meaning for their career. It's not just something that they're being asked to do, but they won't get any credit for or any development for. So I think this sort of more structured, more embedded sort of approach is possibly where we might or maybe of use to us. Other things I was looking at where I was going to put a note in the flinger. Obviously, we've all gotten used to over the past year developing much more online learning resources to support the students. All these interactive online features and quizzes and discussion boards and things like that to try to support our students. And obviously it's not always been easy given the active learning approach that we espouse in CDIO. But whether there's any scope for us to think about, are there any online resources that is an organization we can develop to help support our colleagues, rather than just sort of pointing them in the direction of papers or standards.
Thanks, Garrett. Now that I listened to you, I could notice a lot of the things and elements that sounded very familiar from discussion that we had in Singapore, and I also noticed that for example in our university, it's mandatory for the teachers to get a permanent position in our university. You have to have the teacher training, 1 year teacher training, and unless you don't have it, there's a 6% reduction on your salary, and so there's some incentives for the teacher to do the pedagogical training, although it doesn't guarantee that all the things are actually transferred into the actual teaching situation. But many of the elements that you mentioned have been discussed earlier, and it seems that they are still very relevant today. Okay. Any more ideas? I was going to ask something from you, Nata, but
Yes, you have.
How does all this look from your perspective?
Yeah, I agree with all your presentation in the beginning that in Thailand we face the same situation, that we have like two directions. One is to develop faculty competent, right? It means that disciplinary and then related to the industry. And then the second one is the pedagogical competence of the teachers. So in Thailand, we do have program that support from the government that all faculty members can ask to do more like a training, like short-term training in the industry for 2 months during our summer break, and it's supported by the government. So, but there are quite a few numbers of faculty members who join that program. And for the pedagogical competence depends on the each university, how they have their own unit of faculty development in this particular topic.
Is it part to have some kind of pedagogical training in your university?
Yeah, we do have, yeah. But then it's not mandatory. We set up like a special project for 5 years. And when we change the management team, at the moment we have new management. So the pedagogical training that I have done, it's handed to other responsible people. And I don't see any new project at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I propose in the green square is, since now it's easy to do this recording or do a YouTube sharing, so it might be a good idea to propose to the council that if each institution would select best practice and make a short video that we can share and learn. For example, like for project-based learning, probably one teacher who want to share how he or she did in his course. For active learning, for example, like your course, how do you use your active learning, and then share, and we can have that as a database. So our members can learn from that.
Yeah, that should be quite easy to arrange now that we all are quite familiar with this kind of recordings and online activities. And that's probably something that we can discuss in the council, that if that is something that we can organize, and because that would quite easily help and give ideas from different fields of engineering, that what different universities are doing, and just to prepare 2 to 5 minute video about the activities, and then some contact information there if you want to learn more. Yeah.
Yeah, and from this conference, there are so many YouTube already that we can select and then share in our database.
That's true.
Yeah.
And we have some recordings from the previous last year conference as well, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it has to like do the screening, like which video would go into which category, something like that.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And maybe improve the repository that we have in the CDI website already, because it now includes the papers, but how about adding some videos there as well?
Yeah, this would be a good start. We have something already.
That's true. Okay. Any comments from Jen or Isabel?
One more thing is about the faculty competence. So it's quite related to their own discipline, right?
Yes.
So how about like set up a group like mechanical engineering, industrial engineering, and then make some like video how you increase your competence in your area. That's
true. So you could, there might be some general activities that how active learning is done, and then some discipline-based special groups. Yep. Okay. Isabel, you were going to say something, but I didn't hear. So let's try again. I can see that your lips are moving, but I can't hear anything.
Now, is it okay now?
Okay, now it works.
I have something on my headphone. What I wanted to say about the last proposal about sharing video, we propose workshops to teachers in my institutions. They can register to the workshops, and there is a part we present something, and then they share their visual experiences. But it's easier for them to attend the workshops when there is no recording. So maybe it could be something that maybe it's maybe difficult to share video. I don't know.
Okay. And if you look back on the results that we have had earlier, does any of the challenges of the practices sound familiar from your university perspective?
I don't see something. It was very short for me to.
Okay, it went quickly.
But at the moment, I have nothing to add.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. How about Diana?
Hi.
Hello.
I think I might have missed quite a few because I joined the roundtable quite late.
Okay.
I'm very interested in professional development. And I think it's an area where that the university that I'm working for cares a lot about, because we are going through a very big change, moving from content-based teaching to competency-based teaching. And so the lecturers will have to get used to the active learning, experiential learning methods and stuff like that. but many of the old, I'm not sure if it's appropriate to say old, but many of the teachers, lecturers who had been teaching at university for many years are not very willing to do that. And so I think we have to consider that kind of thing as well when we plan for professional development activities.
What's the biggest challenge in your university from the faculty perspective?
Can you say that again, please?
So what's the biggest challenge if you think about your faculty, and now that you are moving from content-based learning to competence-based, so what would you say is the biggest challenge that you have on your table?
I think it's their resistance to changing, like to shifting from traditional methods to the active learning and experiential things, in order to change their mind and make them to be willing to change. I think that's the biggest challenge that we are facing at the moment.
But you don't see any challenge on the industry connections or industry experience?
Oh, yeah, I think we are trying to overcoming those obstacles as well. But we do have young, active lecturers who can help with that.
Okay.
I don't see that as one of the biggest challenges.
Good.
But of course, I don't think we have been good enough at that. We're communicating and establishing relationships with the industries and other stakeholders. We're trying to work on that.
Well, I raise my hand as well. We can still do better. I'm not saying that we are ready. I guess we all have different challenges there. Okay, I see that we have a colleague from Japan as well. So, Professor Aoki, you want to comment something from the Japanese perspective?
Hi, Konteo Sensei.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. But sorry, I couldn't follow your discussion because I was late to join this meeting.
Okay. But if you think about Japanese faculty members in Japanese courses, what would you think is what's the biggest challenge for faculty members?
For faculty members, our biggest challenge.
Is it the industry connection, or is it the pedagogical skills, or is it something else?
Okay, in our case, in our case, we have lots of industry connection in local areas. So I think it's not bad. It's good. But to make international connection, we are not good at connectivity to foreign country, international country. So it's one of our big challenge.
Okay, make international connections.
Yes. So in this CDIO conference, I think not so many Japanese teachers or members don't join this member, I think. So in this, we are 7 or 8 members in this meeting. So just only one from Japan. So I'm not so, I a little bit miss Japanese, one of my colleagues. Yeah. Sorry.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Let me take us back to this slide. And now if you take a look on the activities or some of the ideas that we discussed in the previous meetings, is there still something that you would like to promote that when we have the council meeting later this week, that we should take that topic on the table and tell that, okay, this is something that the members would like to promote. So we already have there that maybe create some kind of sharing system on the active learning experiences. That's at least one. And then another one is how to set up a system that the different disciplines can introduce the activities that they have been doing. But is there something else on that slide that you would like to really move on? Or do you have some other ideas that maybe pop up from this slide that you would like to promote, or you see that this is really important that the CDIO community could support on your daily activities and on your university? Isabel?
For my part, I am in charge of assessment of the program of master in my university, and I think that alumni is very interesting it's very interesting to have their point of view about the programs of the evidence from alumni. I think it's a very good thing to do. And at the same, I see student voice to our meetings. I think it could be interesting too.
Yes.
For my work in my university, I make some survey with alumni and students, and what they say at the end of the training, they have very interesting idea to share, and it's I think it's something very interesting to have in mind.
Thank you. And I agree, especially on the alumni thing, because I can recognize that from our own university as well, that we are not using alumni as much as we could. And like you mentioned, they quite often when you talk with the students, and even when they are still your students and ask them how we could improve, they have quite nice ideas and why quite realistic ideas as well. And they see things differently that we have thought that, okay, this is working nicely. But when you ask it from the students, they might have a different opinion. Yes. So that at least something that how to get some evidence, and that's actually takes us into the step upward about the evidence of CDIO, that when you are doing CDIO, what kind of effect it has, how is it actually working, and this is something that also CDIO Council has discussed a lot, that we have had CDIO around us for many years, but we haven't really gathered evidence that it is actually working.
And even if in my university there is not actually a CDIO, but I make my survey with alumni using the CDIO framework in order to have the different skills, and I ask questions about the skills that they get during their training, and I think maybe later there will be a CDIO approach, and I can keep my question and ask the same question later and see if there is some difference in what they say about transversal skills before and after implementing such an approach.
Good.
Speaking of collecting evidence from alumni, one thing that concerns me and my colleagues the most is that how to keep the network with alumni going on. I mean, we do have lists of alumni, but we don't really have any systematic ways or networks to talk to them or to contact with them on a frequent basis.
That's a good question, because
yeah.
in our case also, once they graduate, they are supposed to give us an email or address where we can contact them again. But of course, when they change, and the address changes or the email changes, we kind of lose the contact. And what we have been discussing a lot is that you have to establish so good a connection with your students that they want to stay active with your university. And that has helped in certain cases a bit, but we still have a lot of work to do with that. And I guess that's quite similar in many of the universities. Anna, you have opened your mic.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Yes. So if the question is comments to bring along to the council, then I think that it would be very interesting if the CDIO meetings, conferences, and so on also had participants from the managerial level.
Okay.
So that we could hear about even more about strategic issues on competence development, things like that. So I was very happy to see this session on faculty development, and I think it's a crucial question. So more of that would be great, I think. And maybe one way of doing that is reaching out to even more people from managerial levels, and also linking to, I think it was Isabel's comment on student participation, engaging more students in our discussions, I think would be helpful for the CDI community. It's for them. Of course, there's now a lifelong learning perspective, gathering momentum, but we do prepare a lot of our education for students, and they are not very present in our discussions. So I think that could also be something that could benefit the CDI community.
That's so much true. Yeah, we used to have one when we had on-site conferences. We had this what's CDIO. What was the company? There was some kind of contest. No, I lost the name, but then we had students presenting their project, etc. But still, it was a separate occasion there. They were not
very separate,
connected into our discussions. For example,
yes.
It might have been quite interesting to have some students in this faculty development discussion and hear the student voices that what's the key point of faculty competence.
Exactly. So more managers, more students.
Yes, that's a good challenge. Yeah. Okay. Still something, we still have some minutes time. Okay. Garrett, are you still with us? Yes. Now your mic is muted.
Yeah, I'm still here. I won't need to go shortly. I'm leading the poster session that's coming up next.
Okay, you have to.
Yeah, I think the points are all good. I think the student aspect is certainly interesting. Yeah, certainly framing up what the we do sort of, as no doubt we'll all do, sort of feedback sessions or feedback reports from students following modules, but often that can focus in on very sort of detailed aspects and sometimes even personal aspects of the academics approach. But yeah, whether we can help frame out what a good CDIO academic looks like, you know, as a model, but by engaging the students more, you know, so we're obviously thinking about people that are keen on active learning and interactive events and interactive activity and all these aspects. But maybe the students have got different angles on that they can take, something a bit more grounded, perhaps.
Yes, but that's certainly something that how we get the students here. But on the other hand, if each university brings 1 or 2 students, that would already make it a very good number of students participating into the conference. And then we've obviously got the CDIO Academy conventionally, but essentially, you know, that sort of ring fenced away from the main activity, apart from sort of presentations at the end and academics wandering through. But if they were given opportunities to input into the CDIO community as well as do their little active project and things like that, that might give a more rewarding experience for us and push the community on a bit more. As it stands, it's a nice thing for the students to do, and being able to network with peers from around the world, and a good thing for their CVs. But it's maybe a missed opportunity to push things on as far as our activity is concerned. So that's certainly something that we could develop further, because when the students join the CDIO Academy, they could join some other sessions as well if we make it possible. Yeah. Then we
don't want to, you know, send them over to a conference and then stick them in meeting rooms for 3 days. But if we can borrow them for a session or 2,
yes,
during the time, that could be useful.
Yeah. Because they are,
or give them a work package to work on.
Yeah, good. That's a good point. Okay. Any more ideas, comments?
Oh, I just want to add one thing.
Yes, go on.
Regarding student voice to meetings, this reminds me of collecting feedback from students. And one thing that has been bothering us is how to make sure that the students' feedback are genuine. You know, because many of the students are very intuitive and not very objective when they provide evaluation of the program or the lectures. So some of them give negative feedback on lecturers who are serious, you know, about teaching, and sometimes the students are given lower grades or not accepted to take the final because they missed too many sessions, and so they bear a hatred on the lecturers. So they provide not genuine. So we were wondering how we can get the students to say what they really think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can understand your worry, and I can easily remember some of the feedback that we have received here, that once the teachers really change their teaching and learning into more active format where the students have to take a role, quite often in the beginning the feedback is that the teacher is not teaching, and we have to do all the work. Once they get over it and they realize that, okay, this is actually a better way of learning, then the feedback is more like the real
Yeah,
feedback.
we had the same thing.
Kind of collecting interest. Okay. So we still have 3 minutes time, maybe time for some final comments here. I tried to make some kind of summary based on this discussion, and we'll explain the key points that you have said during this roundtable into the council meeting, and let's see whether some of the activities will be visible in the future meetings or in the near future altogether. But if somebody has some ideas that you have been holding back so far, so now it's time to share it. Okay, Isabel, you opened your mic.
Well, just a thing to say about a change conference session format in order to have something more active. We see that it's very difficult. We are just 7 today. How to make this more interactive? Maybe we need some preparation before the session. I don't know, but we see that it's difficult.
Yeah. This is not the easiest topic that we have.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? If no further comments, I would like to say thank you for all of you to join this session, this roundtable, and let's keep on keeping this topic on the headlines and on the table, because this is one of the most important things that our faculty is competent and capable of doing all these kind of activities. So thank you, and I guess we now have about 10-minute break, and then it's time for the poster session. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, and have a good continuing conference. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.